Just wanted to start off just addressing the senseless violence that happened in New York. Just sending our thoughts and our prayers to everybody involved, including one of our own, and sending our thoughts and prayers out to those guys up in New York, and then also, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, out in Colorado, and wishing them a speedy recovery and getting back to health. Another one that's of our own, and just sending our prayers and our thoughts to all those guys. And with that, we start our time in pads. Obviously still got some restrictions, things of that nature with time, but it's good to get the guys out there in pads and watch those guys to implement the physicality to camp that you want. And with that, I'll open up questions.
Do you have an update on Darnell Mooney?
Same thing. No different for Darnell. A couple weeks, shoulder, and we'll figure that thing out as we go.
But you're expecting him to be ready for week 1? Is that fair to say?
We're going with a few weeks right now, and then we'll play it out after we get to that point. When we get to that point, we'll figure out where we're at, and hopefully everything looking good for us to be ready to continue into our season to get them back.
You have Walker and Robinson missing on Sunday or held back.
Yeah, all of those guys are that management plan I kind of talk about, and whether it's something minor or something we're managing from an age standpoint or whatever the situation is from our performance team, all those things are manageable things that we talk about. The only one that's kind of the newer one will be the Mooney few-week deal, which happened in practice.
And what's your expectation for the padded practice today and some of your goals to get them acclimated to back closer to real football stuff?
That is actually exactly what you want to do. Get them acclimated to our pads, get them acclimated to our physicality, get them acclimated to what it feels like to hit, to thud. Obviously we don't go to the ground, but you definitely get a certain amount of physicality up front. You get a certain amount of physicality on the back end. Obviously you see one thud at the point of a contact, at the point of attack. We don't do side thuds. We don't want guys to side thud a guy and him fall into one of his teammates and to prevent some injury that way. But you'll see frontal thuds, and then after that you'll see the tag off, just if it was a helmet practice. You get the ability to get out there and do some of those things with the physicality up front, how you want to move people. We got a little physical the other day, probably a little too physical for my liking, but I love the intent. I love what we had, and it's probably perfect timing to put on pads right now for us.
What was happening there? I couldn't tell if he was getting under their skin or
a little bit of both.
They were going after. Yeah.
A little bit of both. A little bit of I hate the other color right now, and it is what it is. A little bit of that, but it was actually really good intent, really good physicality. But you like to avoid the little bit of skirmish that happened because you don't want to waste time. Like the time is precious for these guys, and it made us cancel our development period. And those are the things that just, as a coach, that just drives you nuts. That's why you don't want it. But you do love the way they bounced back and was able to practice, and there was nothing else. It was immediate. It was right on site. Just want to happen a little quicker so we can move forward and get our practice done.
Aside from those things that you're talking about with James Pierce Jr., what have you seen that you liked? Because Rick was talking about the fact that after that happened, he came back in and had a couple amazing plays after.
That's kind of what I was referring to, Maria. It's like it's perfect. It's like stuff happens, you get upset, and you got to move on to the next play. So to watch him come back in, kind of vet-like, and be able to just continue his practice, to be able to rush and be able to go, is exactly what you want from those type of guys, whether it's a vet, whether it's a rookie, or whether it's just that learning curve of being able to do that, like not getting in your own head, some of the mental toughness that you got to create, some of the, just the overall holistic coaching that you want to be able to do with those type of guys and really everyone. And I think it was a really cool lesson for me to be able to teach that day, and those things happen when you get those things happening like that. It's always a good time to talk about it.
Right, did you get a chance to talk to the guys involved in those little scuffles, and James and Caleb and Birch? No,
because none of those things are ever personal. They may feel like that to the outside eye looking in, but realistically, that's like every day and every down type of things. So they never get personal. You just talk about the reason and why you don't want it. And the most important reason is losing work. The most important it is waste of time. And the most important part about it is having to stop it and even bring them up to just address it at those moments. So you don't want to waste time. You want to eliminate and mitigate most foolishness as you possibly can. It's not allowed within the framework of our game. It's not allowed within the framework of what we do on Sundays. So, just treat practices and games the same way. In particular, you're preparing yourself for joint practices, right? When those things happen in the joint practices, the people that you don't know, when it does become more personal, is the things when it happens and you have to alleviate things. And that is critical for us not to miss those type of work and that type of behavior. So those type of behaviors won't be as easily controlled when you don't know the other team as well. Unfortunately, last year we practiced with Miami, very closely related with the head coach, very close to a lot of guys on their team. It was easy, it was seamless, but you got to teach your new guys, you got to teach your older guys what you expect and what you want from those practices moving forward.
From our perspective on the sidelines, it all looked like to us was that James Pierce Jr. was playing extremely hard and playing pretty well, and and beating some guys. So we didn't really see like exactly what caused it. Did you get any insight into like what actually caused the blow up?
Yeah, I don't really want to be that guy, but you got a pretty good eye, you got a pretty good look at it, and there's some frustrating moments when you're going through it that way. And I'm not going to say James was completely innocent in this here. He has his ways of getting under people's skin as well, and our offensive line have their way of dealing with it. As you can see, the big smile on the Bears' face when he turned around, and Caleb and James walking right back to the huddle, and Burge is always going to be a little bit more dramatic than most. But you get those guys right back in the huddle, and they go. You bring them up, and you're able to lock them in. Some a little quicker than others. We talked about this before. The Drakes and the Burges always going to be a little slower to react to it, and you just got to remain consistent and give them complete eye contact, and you eventually get them.
One thing Briggs said on Sunday was that in both of those little skirmishes, Leonard Floyd came over and had Pierce's back, in both of those things. I just want to get your take on that, your thoughts on that.
We're not going to buy into the brick theory of joining into your teammate, but it's definitely something you always want to see when your teammates and your guys and the people, especially within your room, and you're that veteran leadership type of guy. I'm not shocked that Floyd, I've been around Floyd a long time. I've been fortunate enough to be around him for a couple different seasons and to be able to watch him have his guys back, and that didn't shock me at all. I know Brick didn't know him as well at that point and kind of fell in love with those moments, but as the head coach, it's really just about talking about the management of it all and how we want to be able to move forward and what has to happen when it really matters the most.
Rob, is there such thing as a ramp-up period with pads on, or once the pads on, is the expectation full go?
There's a ramp-up period just based on the time limit and the time constraints you have. Like, obviously, you can only have them out there a certain amount of time. I don't know the exact time right now. Don't test me as on a script. But there's definitely a time limit with that, and there's definitely a ramp-up period of how you want to do things, right? You don't want to go into pads and then the NFL let you go, for us at least anyway. It's like all-out, old-school football. No, you want to ramp them up to what it looks like in a team period, how those things go down. You ramp them up to the following week, some one-on-one things, some one-on-one competitions where it gets a little bit more isolated. You're able to come back maybe with some one-on-one defensive back drills that way. You're able to ramp those things up as you go to decide if you need to get into some type of full practice or you decide what you're going to do with your joint practices. All those things are teachable, learnable lessons for me to be able to teach our guys how to practice when we're practicing somebody else, because those are things that are really important to me, what you guys know.
Going back to what you were talking about with Darnell Mooney and being out for the next few weeks, I know you've talked previously, and Zach has too, about a big process of finding depth is actually finding clones within certain archetypes and what you're asked to do within the scheme. With that in mind, who are some guys that this is a really important opportunity for them over the next few weeks to maybe establish themselves?
Pretty easy answer, Tori. Unfortunately, or however you want to look at it, last year we had to deal with it at the end of the season in our last Carolina game. We got a chance to see Ray McLeod step up and play some X. Right, he's able to move out to Mooney's position, and whether you know or not, those positions are really interchangeable in what those guys are able to do because of the separation skills and some of the same skill sets. We got a chance to see a young guy like Casey Washington be able to accumulate more reps the other day and to be able to watch him go out there and grow and perform and be the best version of himself and what he's able to do, because he's able to get more reps and be able to go prove himself in those settings, in those call-it settings or those Mamba settings or those move-the-ball settings, and to be able to go watch him play. And then you got the other guys behind him who do some of the cross-training like a Chris Blair, like a Polk, and then also we just signed DJ Chalk. Right, so that gives opportunity for those guys to be able to go show some opportunities at the spot that Mooney plays. When you're talking about the guy that's the deep threat, you're talking about the guy that can run the intermediate routes, you're talking about the guy that can move inside, move around, do different things, and provides that speed element that Mooney definitely provides to us. So you get a chance to see some of those guys get those opportunities, and it's hard to replace, your starting X, your Mooney, but we got people in place that are clone-like to be able to go in there and do some of those things for us that we're going to need to get done, and it's fun to watch those guys do it as well.
Coach, I know you said today is built for ramp up, first day of pads, but is there a level of intensity that you look for day one? I mean, I know it's still so early, but do you kind of look for that on a day like this?
It's great because I kind of look at it like the identity thing, right? It's easy for me to get up here and talk tough and then tell you what we're going to do, right? The reality happens out there, right? That's where the reality happens. So, for me, when you talk about identity, you should be able to come out and tell me what it looks like when we after the day and what it feels like and how intense it was. I know we all appreciated not we, I know you guys all appreciated the dust-ups, the fights, right? It's like the Falcons are really going. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, you really get it, like, when you're going, right? Like the fight thing is like things you want to be able to avoid while getting that physicality ramped up to a different level, and that's what you want to see happen today.
Is any part of your player evaluation process, specifically on defense, related to, for lack of a better word, edge or orneriness? I wonder if part of what you liked about James was maybe that.
You're very good. You're very good at what you do. It wasn't just even a part of practice. It wasn't just even a part of the people in the building. It was part of our draft. We wanted to add a little edge to our football team. We want to add a little edge to our rush. All the really great football players around that I've been around, they got edge. They got a little bit of edge when you talk about rushing the passer. You talk about some of these great passers that we talk about, whether it's Aaron Donald, whether you're talking about Von Miller, whether you're talking about Warren Sapp, whether you're talking about Simeon Rice. Any of these guys that rush the passer, they got a little bit of edge. And part of our whole draft, part of our whole philosophy, part of our practice, part of us becoming a team that we want to be and going out and actually doing some of these things is acquiring players with some natural edge. So that's definitely a part of it. That's definitely a part of what we want. It's definitely part of who we are. And it's no different even with our offensive line. You got speed off the ball versus, running through dark rooms. And there's going to be some violence, and there's going to be a certain amount of physicality that's required to be a part of this football team.
How do you evaluate the difference between edge and doesn't fit our culture?
It's pretty simple, is when you are able to talk about what you're trying to get done and why you're trying to do those things and what's important to us is how you evaluate that. If we would have had something like that where we lost control and had to cancel practice, those are things that we don't want to do. You don't want to waste time or waste reps for other people in those moments, and you need those people to care for each other enough to realize that. There is a certain part of edge, there's a certain part of that you want, but it comes to a point just like it would do in a game on Sunday.
Right, you mentioned.
Or Monday or Thursday or Friday.
You mentioned Sapp. Like, you look at that 0-2 Bucks team. Like, how would a Derek Brooks, a Rondé Barber, a Simeon Rice handle a rookie talking some smack? Is there just different now that rookies are cool to do that as opposed to when you were first getting in the league?
So rookies have always been there, and like you said, it's usually handled by the Derek Brooks, the calm, cool demeanor. Whoa, young fella, that's not how we do things. And whether it was a sauna visit, whether it was a locker room visit, whether it was a lunchroom meeting, or even on the field, because that's where it goes, right? People do whatever you want, and you can talk to them however you want to once they know how much you care. And a part of that is letting your players know how much you care. So like our O-line investing into James Pierce Jr., our O-line investing into Jalen Walker, our O-line investing into those guys, showing them what it's going to look like when there's a 330-pound man trying to blow you off the ball, how are you going to respond the next play. Like, that's important. That's what you want to find out now. That's what makes our practices really valuable to us, iron sharpening iron, Zach. And I really believe it gives your leaders a chance to step up. I was talking to Bijan the other day. The offense didn't have a great day. We talked about it, right? And he was like, can I call the offense? I was like, no. Do it right now in live time and live bullets. Go see the people you need to see. Let your voice be heard. Open up. Like, that's a part of youth growing up and becoming those veteran leadership. It's a part of all those things, and I think that's a healthy part for us.
There's a phrase like practice makes perfect, practice how you play, all those different cliches like that. Is that why you emphasize, though, the right way to practice, following a certain regimen of the ramp-up period and learning the basics before you go big and broad? To me, Taryn, it's more about like teaching these guys and not assuming, right? You waste a lot of time assuming that guys know how to practice in the NFL and the NFL environment, right? We come from all different walks. We come from all different things. In college, you got 190 people in the field, it feels like, and the scout team are afterthoughts, right? There are no afterthoughts in our building, and everybody has a certain amount of respect and is going to require a certain amount of respect. So you got to teach everybody how to practice, right? You got to teach everybody how to go about their business, how to give your maximum effort and what it looks like when you're ramping things up and you're moving forward, and how much is too much and how you protect the team, right? When I block Zach in practice, I'm probably going to finish him off. I'm going to go to the ground and roll over and not think about him, right? When I'm in practice, he's my teammate. He's not going to feel the same. This guy is definitely fined. What was that, an atomic dog right there, player? Really? You can't even hide that it wasn't you. It's going to be different when Zach's my teammate, right? It's going to be let him know I had him on that play, hold him up. Zach will know, and we can give a healthy slap in the helmet and keep it moving.
Raheem, we sit here and go through psychology of watching practices, right?
Yes.
Can you tell as the head coach, less than a week in, a characteristic of this team that's different from last year's team?
Probably a little bit of the edge that we just talked about. You got a great radio voice, by the way. Probably a little bit of edge we just talked about, but it is like you can already see it. You can already feel it within the weight room. You can feel it in the meeting rooms, the excitement, the enthusiasm. You can feel it from the coaching staff, particularly the new coaching staff that's been involved with everything. And then, like, it goes to the field. You know, like I think the offense talked about it a little bit. It's kind of like a little bit of a corny rah-rah, but it becomes authentic. It becomes who they are. It becomes what they become. It becomes, like, contagious throughout the building, and you got to love it. And, like, I can already feel that edge. I can already feel that, you know, that 1-2. I can already feel that hunger, that desire, that obsession to go out there and be the best version of themselves.
Jesse
On
Bates.
defense, do you see similarities between what you're trying to do with this defense this year versus what you did in your last year in LA in 2023 with using all those young players, and any kind of best practices? Are you thinking toward, from that experience, and how you could kind of use it?
I do. I try to use all those experiences. Nothing's going to be the same. You know, it's never going to be the same type of deal as that way, but definitely the youth movement in LA was one of those things that happened, surrounded a perennial All-Pro, Hall of Famer, soon to be first ballot, whatever the case may be, in Arendano. And it's some of those things that's happening here with some of the youth that's around, some of the guys that we do have. Whether you're talking about Jesse Bates, you're talking about Ellis, or you're talking about Yamada. And you're surrounding it with the youth movement. You're surrounded by a little bit of veteran savvy. When you're talking about Mike Hughes, you're talking about A.J. Terrell. And then you get some of the youth movement that you got going on up front, some in the back end. And it's fun to watch, and it's fun for these guys to get out there and learn and play fast, and it's pretty cool to watch those guys go out there and compete at a very high level, and to watch our young guys mature faster. And I think that's a big part that we want to do with these guys.
Jesse Bates said that DeMarco Hellens has been itching to get back out there in full pads and hit people. Have you seen that desire and aggression already?
Yeah, DeMarco's desire and aggression comes out right away. Immediately, sometimes unprompted and sometimes unwanted. But he's definitely done a nice job of figuring out how to practice. He's one of those guys that had to figure out how to practice, what it looks like, you know, how does it feel to be a really good teammate, but also to be able to practice as hard as I can to get ready for those moments. You never worried about him being physical at the point of attack. You always got to worry about him in practice, but he's gotten so much better. You guys remember the hit last year in training camp on Ray McLeod in the stadium when he absolutely lost his mind and ran through him. You've seen growth and improvement at that stage already, and that's something that you love about DeMarco, and it's so much fun to watch him get out there and run around again, because when those guys get hurt, man, they forget about until you get them back, and you get so excited when you have them.
You a big golf guy?
I wouldn't say big golf guy. I am a big, terrible golf guy that wants to be a golf guy at some point. It's just this profession just gets in the way.
So one more.
Coach, any thoughts on the
I was going.
Wait a minute.
I was going somewhere with that.
He was going.
That wasn't just a throwaway. But Penix and
Yes.
Kyle Pitts have become golf buddies, and Penix is just starting his golf process. I just want to. I mean, as a leader, that's a good thing, right? For the quarterback to come, and it's the thing that the tight end,
It's funny. I was riding to work this morning with one of my young coaches, and we were talking about it. And he said the reason Penix probably is attached to golf so much because he's probably so bad and he's not used to being bad at anything. And he has an obsession to be good at some point, and it's just something that gets that competitive edge out of him. So when he's away from actually going out there and competing within the framework of a team, that gives him another competitive moment for himself. And, like, that is something that I look forward to doing, and just so happened to form a nice relationship with him and Kyle and a nice bond with those guys. Like, I didn't even realize until he got up and was talking about he threw the ball to him the other day, to you guys, and, like, it's important to him, and, like, those are things that are really important. I don't know what D-Let's doing up here. Go ahead, D.
The end of the week here, we got a big day in Canton. Any thoughts on the class going in? Eric Allen, Sterling Sharp, Antonio Gates, and Jared Allen.
You know, all of those guys, you know, I've been fortunate enough, I've been coaching the league long enough to see them all in the field, and got so much respect for anybody going to the Hall, anybody that's even thought about as a potential going to the Hall, that I just got so much respect for that game, those guys, that room, that building. That's just an awesome thing for people to have, and what everybody strives for in this game.
All right, thanks, y'all.
All right.
Thanks, Raheem.
All right, thank you guys.